One of the things we love about the Beatles is their sense of humor. These are very funny guys. We see it at the press conferences and the interviews.
Do you hope to get a haircut at all?
No.
No, thanks.
I had one yesterday.
That's no lie.
And we hear it in that studio chatter.
Money and thought into the whole thing. Yeah, but let's face it, you're crap.
But it's not so obvious or prevalent in the music. But every once in a while, we do get a glimpse of that cheekiness. For instance, in the song Girl, where they're singing tit, tit, tit as backing vocals, and they needed that sense of humor in order to deal with being the Beatles, to deal with the Beatlemania. They never really took being Beatles very seriously, but they would always take the music very seriously. And when it comes to the Beatles White Album, not only do we get a double helping of fantastic Beatles songs, we also get a generous dose of that unique Beatles humor.
If you want me to, I won't.
Yes, you will.
I mean, the album opens with the song Back in the USSR, for crying out loud. They did love the Beach Boys, and I guess this is their way of showing it by kind of poking them a little bit. It's the Beatles trying to sound just like the Beach Boys. At this point in time, they had been on a bit of a roller coaster, both personally and professionally, since the latter part of 1967. And I guess they have their way of dealing with it, because it does show up here on the White Album. But they kind of make lemonade out of lemons, or maybe they take that sad song and make it better. Now, how does John deal with it? Well, John is always going to tell us all about it, but how John does it here on the White Album, he kind of wraps up his angst and his frustration, his anger in a candy coating and gives it to us, okay? And we kind of wonder, what's going on, John? Are you upset? Are you sad? Are you tired? What's really going on, John? Because the songs are so great. Like I'm So Tired, the continuing story of Bungalow Bill, Glass Onion, where he's poking fun at the fans, but he's also kind of sort of poking fun at himself. So with a lot of John's songs, we're in on the joke here. The joke is in our face here. We're like, everybody's got something to hide except for me and my monkey. My goodness, that whole line is a joke. The length of the title, it's a joke. With Happiness is a Warm Gun, that's a song, almost like about nothing and everything at the same time. And then Sexy Sadie, definitely a lot of anger and angst in that John song, but still, very jokey and very John, just like the song I'm So Tired. But then John has a very serious subject in the song Revolution. But we're wondering, John, are you serious about this? What's really going on with the song Revolution? Because it sounds like, you're not so serious. This is like another happy-go-lucky song because you're singing like shoo-be-doo-bop-bow. So John is kind of having it both ways on the White Album and also letting us in on the joke. And that's the thing I love about the White Album, because there's so much to it. A lot of times, you're here, the interviews, the Beatles, what they do is they look back on this like almost at a point in time in their lives, that they're ashamed about it. We all have something that we did a long time ago that we're not proud of, that we want to kind of distance ourselves from it. And sometimes when I hear them talking about the White Album, I feel like, are you not proud of the White Album? There's a lot of great stuff here. Almost like most of the songs on here, well, I don't know if I shouldn't say most of them, but there's a ton of masterpieces here. A lot of classic Beatles songs on the White Album. And that's what I think is so funny about it, because people go like, what is the deal with this? I want to change it up. We didn't have a good time making it. Yeah, we had a good time making it. Yeah, it's good. No, it's not so good. Maybe it should have been this. Maybe it should have been that. Come on.
It's the bloody Beatles White Album. Shut up.
It's like the whole album, in my opinion, is like this great big masterpiece. You just can't box it in. You just can't put a label on it because it is so different from anything else that they've ever done. And that's the other thing I think that's funny about it is like people trying to make it be just like everything else, when the most beautiful and hilarious thing about it is the fact that it's so different from anything else. And they just decided to put all kinds of crap on it, mainly because they could. Because they were the Beatles, and it's that attitude also that I love about it. The humor and the attitude, the White Album, it's all good. So how does Paul deal with being on a roller coaster? Well, Paul deals with it by writing a song about a roller coaster, Helter Skelter, another classic song, another Paul masterpiece, and then he, of course, leaves it kind of jokey at the end when we hear Ringo saying, I got blisters on my fingers. Nothing is funny about Ringo having blisters on his fingers, but still it's kind of funny. And Paul also likes to have fun by pushing himself, by trying different things, like with the song Honey Pie. I mean, that's a ridiculous song, but I guess he's just trying something, and he's also having fun, like accompanying himself by saying, I like this kind of music. I mean, I'm sorry, I can't sing, but I love hearing Paul like trying new things, pushing himself, like on Martha, My Dear. It's a song about a dog, but he's pushing himself professionally. And he's also trying something different with Obla Di Obla Da, not just pushing himself, but pushing everybody else too. But it sounds to me like they're having fun with another classic song. He pushes himself with Blackbird with that finger-picking style, and he accompanies himself on that one too, like with the tapping feet. And on one of my favorite Paul songs, I Will, where he's kind of accompanying himself on his mouth bass, boop, boop, like that. And the song Rocky Raccoon, where he's kind of dealing with some past angst with the song Rocky Raccoon. Again, letting us all in on the joke, and also probably a subject very near and dear to Paul, like Why Don't We Do It in the Road? And another thing about the song Why Don't We Do It on the Road, like here in the track listing, the song right after it is another Paul song, I Will. The song Birthday. Basically, that is a Beatles studio jam that they turn into a classic. That's hilarious. Now, while the song Your Blues, there's nothing hilarious about the song Your Blues, the backstory to it and how it was recorded is kind of funny. John decides to record that song in this very small room at Abbey Road Studios, sort of on a dare, and they keep recording it and playing it louder and louder, rehearsing it louder and louder, later and later into the night, until the neighbors start complaining about it. And so what do? They just keep on playing louder and louder. That is that attitude on the White Album.
Do you have something important?
Something very important to say.
George has a lot to say on the White Album, too. Now, George doesn't like authority figures, and he doesn't like the elites, and so he's poking at them with the song Piggies, and he also kind of has fun poking at his friend Eric Clapton with the song Savoy Truffle, and even with his masterpiece, Long, 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 George's other masterpiece. So all kinds of masterpieces here. Gently Weeps, another classic, another masterpiece. But with the song Long, 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 he's, he can't take himself so seriously, so he allows that weird sound to stay on at the very end of the song, where, that wine bottle kind of vibrating on top of that amp. He allows that to stay in there, just like Paul lets Ringo's yell stay in at the end of Helter Skelter.
I got blisters on my fingers!
And Ringo has his song on here, Don't Pass Me By, with that hilarious line, you were in a car crash and you lost your hair. Now, I don't know, Ringo making a car crash be funny? I don't know. I think that is the whole tone of the White Album. That's the White Album in a nutshell right there. John, Paul, George, and Ringo taking themselves seriously, not so seriously, in a very obvious and maybe even not so obvious way, all throughout the White Album, with light humor as well as dark humor, poking fun at their friends, poking fun at their enemies, poking fun at their fans, even poking fun at themselves. That's the great thing about the White Album. It gives us so much. We kind of wonder what's going on with it here. We try to define it when we should absolutely not define it. Just like the song Revolution 9, we should just not worry about what it means. Just kind of sit back and say, okay, all right, whatever is that? Okay, all right, fine. I kind of see where you're coming from with that song. Because that's basically just like finger painting, just a collage. It's just him experimenting and trying things. Don't take it all so seriously. Just sit back and enjoy the ride. Just kind of let it wash all over you. People try to put the White Album in a box. They want it to be just like all the other albums that they did, when basically the White Album is saying, just love me as I am, and I was almost going to say warts and all, but I don't know, man. I'm just not seeing any warts. Even the fact that it's white. That it's a White Album. I mean, that's hilarious too. I mean, it's just not even trying, and it gets all of our attention when it's not even really trying. It's not as polished as all the other albums. Heck no. But I think it's even more beautiful. Obviously I have a very special relationship, with the White Album. We understand each other. We really do. I love the White Album. Thank you so much for being here with me tonight. I really and truly appreciate it. And until next time, peace and love one another. Take care and good night.
Beatles is Beatles, Beatle. In the end, it's like, oh, sod off with the Beatles,